Hello folks, Gordon here, hope all is well with you. And I've got back into book reading lately in the library. And I'm going to talk about a few of them as I get through them. But this is a book that someone gave me as a present. It's this one. This one, The Fast Track, Inside the Surging Business of Women's Sport by Jane McManus. My brother gave me that as a present because he knows that I've been banging on about women's sport for a long time. And I was thinking about it. I've actually been banging on about women's sport for 25 years now. A quarter of a century I've been going on about women's sport since the 2000 Olympic Games in Sydney, because the pole vault for women was introduced in the Sydney Olympics. And I thought, hang on, why has there never been pole vault for women before? And the reason was that men had decided it was too dangerous for women. I thought, hang on then, that got me involved into women's sport and the barriers that women have had when it comes to sport. And as I'm recording this video, the Women's Rugby World Cup is taking place in England in the autumn of 2025. So it's a perfect time to talk about it because that is a growth sport. Still a bit of a niche sport, but it's a growth sport. As I started reading this book, I thought, hang on, it's all American. Ooh, I want to hear the British angle. But actually, the more I read the book, it's interesting to read the American angle because obviously it's slightly different. And her angle, she was talking about, not focusing exclusively on, but talking about quite a lot of basketball, women's basketball, because basketball is a massive sport in the States. And college basketball, in the college basketball front, the women's events were selling out massive arenas. But when it came to women's sport or women's basketball professionally, the same thing was happening that she found, the same thing was happening that was happening in a lot of other sports. That the men were the gatekeepers to setting up a governing body. The men were the gatekeepers to the money. The men were the gatekeepers to broadcasting. And that's the same in the UK. And what a lot of women were doing when they tried to push and develop women's sport, and the male cheerleaders and the male allies, which I would include myself in that as a cheerleader for women's sport, they were trying to do two things, which turned out to be swimming upstream. The first was trying to replicate the men's models, and the second was trying to get the male fans who watched male sport over into watching the women's sport. And what the women started to realise was, okay, yeah, there's value in that. But what the women started to realise was that instead of fighting for space in the space that the men had reserved for themselves, what they actually decided to do, and you hear this quote a lot, was to build a new house. Now, I love that because it's based on the fact that the product is different. It's not just women playing the same sport. It's a different product. The athletes are different. They've got different needs. The model is different. The audience is different. Really interesting, because if you take the NFL, for example, American football, 49% of the audience of the NFL are women. And a huge percentage of the audience who watch women's sport are men. So it used to be an argument that no one watches women's sport. The only people interested in women's sport are women, because women aren't interested in men's sport. Now, neither of those are true. Women are interested in men's sport. 49% of the NFL audience are women. Men are interested in women's sport. They make up a massive percentage of the audience of women's sport. So it's just not true. It is a myth. But that myth took hold and was perpetuated. When it comes to men being the gateholders to the money investment, and I always say you reach a tipping point once the money men start to realise that there's money to be made in women's sport, because then they start to pile in the money. Now, it is true, it's a catch-22. Will the money come if there's no people watching it? But won't be any people watching it until it gets broadcast. But it won't get broadcast unless the sponsors are there. So it is a vicious circle as to which comes first. And you have to grow all at the same time. But when it comes to the money, when money was coming into women's sport, it was viewed as just an add-on, just a nice little bonus from the money invested in men's sport. And that's where the idea of building a new house comes in. You have to get people involved in the idea, a longer term investment in building the new house of women's sport. Oh, it's just fascinating. And it can still be seen right here, right now, September 2025, as I'm recording this video, the Women's Rugby World Cup. Is it an add-on? Is it a nice little bonus thing to have, considering there's a Rugby Men's World Cup? Is it the lesser version? Or is it building a new house? Is it a product in its own right? Oh, it's fascinating. I love it. Don't start me off, mind you, about trying to get a ticket for the final of the Women's Rugby World Cup. Don't start me off on that one, I said. Do not start me off on that. But yeah, I told you not to start me off. That's a whole different subject. I'm not going to talk about that in this video. Yeah, the fast track inside the surging business of women's sport by Jane McManus. I do recommend it if you're interested in women's sport and the growth of women's sport. Signing off for now. Let me hear your thoughts as ever. I'd love to hear what you think. Wishing you as ever health and happiness. And let me know if you've watched any of the Women's Rugby World Cup. If not, why not? Did you even know that there is a Women's Rugby World Cup and that it's on at the moment in England? Right, signing off for now. Wishing you as ever health and happiness. And I'll speak to you again soon.